Hello and happy June. Today I'm so excited to be telling you what I will be reading in the month of June because I'm excited about it. Okay, before we dive into my TBR, I cannot record a video or talk to you without talking about what is going on right now, what has been going on for all of American history, but specifically it has a lot of attention right now. And you might be thinking, if you are a white person, you might be thinking, this doesn't have to do with me. The police shootings, the police being called on Black people when they're bird watching, like, what does that have to do with me? I'm not racist. I'm not a cop. I guess it doesn't have to do with me. Well, you're wrong. It has to do with you because this is the world that you live in and that you will be leaving to our children. And the best place to start, if you're not sure what this has to do with you or what role you play in it, is of course with books. So I'm going to recommend that you just educate yourself on what's going on the systems at play, on your role in it, on my role in it. Check out, I would start with a book. So you want to talk about race. This book is so good at explaining the systems of oppression and how they continue to impact lives today and the role that we all play in creating these systems and perpetuating them. And once you have read that book, you can move on to the hard work inside of the book, Me and White Supremacy. She held an Instagram challenge, I think 2 summers ago, that then became this book. And I did that Instagram challenge then and then got the book. And it is not easy, but it's life and death. Recognizing your role in what's happening and changing the way that you live your life and talk to people and raise your kids, all of that is important and it matters, and it will change the world when you start by changing yourself. And this book is a really good way to start that process. And after that, there are actions you can take. There are petitions you can sign, totally free to take action. There's places you can donate to. I'm including a link below, which is a roundup of all of those from the Black Lives Matter organization. And then there's also more education you can do after that, but I'd start with those 2 books. I believe that will be on your TBR this month. If you haven't already read those books, I've read them both, highly recommend them. Let me know below any other books that you recommend for the very beginner work. There are a lot of books out there, but I think if you were raised like I was raised, you probably need that beginning foundation to begin with in the beginning. So now let's talk about my to be read list. Since the coronavirus started, I found myself having a much easier time reading and avoiding my phone if I'm reading a mystery or a thriller, something that is not too stressful, but that is has like a hook, a mystery I want to solve, that it keeps me picking it back up when it would be so easy to pick up and scroll through my phone. Now, before I get into my big goal for the summer, what I plan on reading, I have to tell you about the mysteries I'm gonna be reading very next. I ordered 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson from my local bookstore, Malaprops in Asheville. The premise of this book is that a bookshop owner, it's got books on the cover, a bookshop owner writes a blog post years ago about the 8 perfect murders in literature, and then they start happening. So the FBI comes to him for help in solving them. And it's like, I think, told from his perspective about it all. After I ordered it, I realized it spoils all 8 of the books that are featured in it because it tells you who the murderers were. And I was like, well, if I read this, that means I'm just giving up on ever reading those other books. Although, to be honest, I don't remember what happened in a lot of the books I have read. I never remember the final twist 2-3 months later. So it probably wouldn't completely ruin it for me, but it'd ruin it in the short term. And I was like, since I plan on reading a lot of mysteries this summer, why not start with the books mentioned in here? So I'm not going to read all of them because I couldn't find them all at my used bookstore, and I got impatient. I really want to read this soon, but I picked the 2 I'm most interested in. Strangers on a Train by Patricia Highsmith. Now, I try really hard not to read too much about a mystery before I read it because I don't want to have it ruined, but I want to read just enough to figure out if I want to read it. So this, all I can tell you is that 2 strangers meet on a train, they talk about their problems, and they decide to switch murders. They'll murder the other person's problem person for them. That way it'll never be traced back to them because they're just 2 complete strangers. They have nothing in common. Their life doesn't overlap. So they'll get away with it. And the person that they want to be offed will be offed without them being at risk. So that's Strangers on a Train by Patricia Highsmith. I plan on starting this today. The next book that he talks about in 8 Perfect Murders is The ABC Murders by Agatha Christie. This is a Hercule Poirot, I never feel like I'm saying it right, Poirot detective mystery, of which there are dozens. You can see the whole list on the back. And that's all I know about it. That's all I'm gonna know. There's something to do with ABC. There was a recent movie about, like based on it, that I'll probably watch after I read it. So I'm gonna read these 2, and then I'll have them spoiled in 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson. And then I'm gonna get to my real plan for the summer, which is to read cozy mysteries, specifically series that are really beloved. So I went through Goodreads, I found some cozy mystery lists, and I looked at ones that had more than like 1,000 reviews and that were rated higher than a 3.5. And I got many to start with. Now, cozy mysteries are mysteries that are set in cozy places, often small towns, often like bookshops or yarn shops or bakeries, and they're often murder mysteries in which nothing is too graphic. So often the murder happens like off screen, we don't really see it, off page, I guess, and there's not a lot of violence, there's not a lot of sex, it's not graphic, and typically the person solving the mystery isn't a cop or a detective or a PI, they are just like an amateur who is interested, often a business owner. Like this one, she's an owner of a bookstore. You'll see many times you're an owner of like a bakery. There's often cats in them and craftiness. So it's like perfectly things I'm interested in already. I've gotten several already. They're on my shelf here. We'll pull them off and talk about them. But I have a few more that are on the way that I'll tell you about. These are ones I ordered from bookshop.org, which allows you to support local independent bookstores, and you can get books that like my local indie didn't have, but I ordered on bookshop.org from their shop. This one I'm still waiting on is by MC Beaton, who is a classic in the cozy mystery genre. She actually has 2 different series. This one starts with The Quiche of Death. It's an Agatha Raisin mystery, and I know that there is a BBC show about Agatha Raisin, which I could watch it, but there are dozens of books in the series. So if I like it, there's a lot to read. That's another bonus of cozy, is they often have just dozens, and so like you don't have to think about what you're going to read next, just read the next one, which I love and need right now. In The Quiche of Death, Agatha Raisin decides that she's going to retire in this quiet English village only to stumble across a murder and need to solve it. We have A Deadly Inside Scoop, which is the first book in a brand new series. It is by Abby Collette. It is about an MBA Bronwyn who goes back home to rural Ohio to help her family redo their ice cream store. And of course, right before opening, after the renovation, a body is found and she needs to solve it so that the ice cream store can reopen and be profitable. And so I already like it because it's about business and it's about ice cream. I'm all in. The next book is Death by Dumpling, which I love the title. It's by Vivian Chen, and this is the first book in the Dumpling Shop series. There is a daughter who goes back home to help her parents with their noodle shop, and a body is found. So lots of food puns, love dumplings, gonna love it. Next up we have Death by Darjeeling by Laura Childs. This is a series in which there are already a ton of books in. It is set, well the character Theodosia, which you gotta love, owns a tea shop in Charleston, South Carolina, one of my favorite cities. And there's a lot of murders that come up that have to do with tea that they need her help solving. So it's a tea shop mystery. I'm hoping I like this one because they have a lot at my used bookstore. We're on the food and drink kick. Let's talk about the coffee house mystery. So this isn't book 1 in the series, but this is what they had at my used bookstore that was looking in extremely good shape. This is a series by Chloe Coyle. It's set in a coffee shop. In this one, the coffee house manager, Claire Cozies, do you love that? Claire Cozies has to save the day. I have a couple more in the food genre. The next one is A Secret Book and Scone Society by Ellery Adams. Now, Ellery Adams has several cozy series. I saw a bunch of them, but this was the one I found recommended the most, that was most beloved by some other booktubers. And it's set in a bookstore, the Miracle Books, which is there near Miracle Hot Springs that people travel to, so there are a lot of tourists. And the book owner's special power is that she prescribes books that help people through whatever they're going through. So she's really good at making book suggestions. One of the people who reaches out for a suggestion turns up dead. They help her solve the mystery, and they form a little society where they share their darkest secrets and become friends. I think I'm really gonna like this one. Also set at a bookstore, A Novel Way to Die. This is not the first book in this series. This is what they had at my used bookstore, and it's a Black Cat bookshop mystery. There are a lot of mysteries set in bookshops, a lot about cats, and some that are haunted, which I'm not interested in anything supernatural happening in the bookstore. This is by Allie Brandon, and a local business owner turns up dead, and she needs to find out what happened, and her cat is very helpful in solving the crime. I don't know what that means, but that's what it is. Should have mentioned when we were talking about the food, Joanne Fluke's Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder. I feel like this is a super bestseller. I see this all the time. There are a million books in this series. It includes recipes in it. It's the first Hannah Swenson mystery. Oh, the Hannah Swenson mystery series was actually made into a Hallmark TV show called, like, I don't know what it's called, the Bake Shop Mystery. I'm not really sure, but there's a Hallmark TV show about the series. So there are some chocolate chip cookies at the scene of a murder, which implicates the owner of the bakery, Hannah, and she needs to solve it to clear her name and to fix her reputation, because, you know, the community thinks that she murdered somebody by chocolate chip cookie. I've read that a lot of cozies start with someone needing to clear their own name or their own family, like Death by Dumplings and An Inside Scoop. All of those have murders kind of on the premises, and so the person gets sucked into solving them in order to like fix the family business, keep it running, and not like ruin their reputation. Another one set in a shop is Seaside Knitters Mystery Series by Sally Goldenbaum. This book is one that was available on Book Outlet, which is why I got it. It was only $3 or $4. It's not the first book in the series, but I figured I'll start here, and if I like it, I'll read the series. It's called Murder in Marino. It's set in a yarn shop. You see there's also a cat on the cover, of course, and lots of yarn. I'm interested to know if the author is a knitter and if the knitting in the story holds up, because often in books they do not. Next we have a classic, there's dozens in this one, by Nancy Atherton, called Aunt Dimity's Death. This is the first book in the Aunt Dimity series, which I've heard recommended a zillion times. Everybody seems to love it. Aunt Dimity is an aunt that Lori had only heard of in like bedtime stories. She didn't know she was a real person until the will was read, and she is going to inherit her aunt's large estate if she can find a stash of letters somewhere in the estate. And Aunt Dimity might come back from the dead as a ghost to help her solve the mystery. Not entirely sure. Like I said, I'm not super interested in the supernatural stuff in my mystery, but so many people love this, I'm gonna give it a shot. And another classic, and Blanche on the Lamb, I was super excited to find at my local used bookstore, by Barbara Neely, because it's one of the few mystery novels that heroine is a woman of color. So Blanche serves as a housekeeper for a family in South Carolina, and they have lots of secrets, as does she, which is why she's on the lam, and she uses a network of other housekeepers to solve the mysteries, to figure out the secrets, and she uses her role as someone that people just ignore and don't see as a way to like learn stuff and get secrets, which I love. So that's Blanche on the Lamb. I think I'm gonna really love this one by Barbara Neely. I'm excited for this. And another book with a woman of color main detective. However, this one is written by a white dude. So we're gonna see. So this is set in Botswana. The detective Precious actually has a detective agency, so she is kind of a professional, unlike most cozies, but I saw this again and again listed as one of the best cozies. It's also not set in America, which is huge. All my other books are set in small town America. So I'm super interested in reading the #1 ladies detective agency. There's a TV show about this one too. I'd like to know if you've read it and what you think of this one. And one of my only hardcovers I found. This book was actually super hard to find, called Sex, Murder, and a Double Latte. This is one that they recommend a lot on Book Riot. One of the writers at Book Riot loves it. It's by Kira Davis. The reason I was excited about this one is because the heroine is a mystery crime writer herself. So something happens near her that she has to solve the mystery, but she's been writing mysteries, and I love that trope when a writer has to actually like do the thing they've been writing about. So that's Sex, Murder, and a Double Latte. Of all of them, I think this is probably the most modern feeling and the most modern in tone, and I'm super excited. There's a whole series, all of which seem kind of hard to get. So let me know if you know why that is, but that's Sex, Murder, and a Double Latte. And the last one, which I've actually read, but I read it way back in college and I have no real memory of what happened. That is The Eyre Affair by Jasper Fforde. In this series, and there's a whole series, I've got the second one on my shelf as well. This was super on sale at Book Outlet, just like $3 or $4. In this series, crimes are happening in Bookland. Like, people are traveling into your favorite books, like this one happens in Jane Eyre, and hurting the characters in Jane Eyre. And so Thursday Next is a detective that needs to like go into the book and solve the mystery to keep the story whole, to keep all the characters alive. And in every different Thursday Next mystery, she goes into different books, which for a book nerd is like the perfect thing. When I read this the first time, I had not read Jane Eyre yet. And then I read it several years later. I completely love Jane Eyre. It's one of my favorite books. I can't believe how modern it feels. And so I'm looking forward to going back and reading this now that I actually know what it's about. So when I finish this one, I have the second one ready to go. I'm very excited. So that's it for, this is clearly not just a June TBR. This is like my summer TBR. You'll notice there are 2 books on here we didn't talk about yet because they're not exactly cozies. This is the next Louise Penny book in the Inspector Gamache series. I talked about this in my last TBR video, but I didn't get to read it. This isn't really a cozy series. It's following a detective, so he's a professional. It's much more like just a detective story, except very deep and thinky and philosophical and so good. So this is on my list to read next. And also, Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe by Fanny Flagg. I think I might have read this as a teenager, but I can't remember. I remember seeing the movie and loving it like with my grandma when I was like 15, 17, I don't know. So I'm gonna read it again because it's been a long while, and rewatch the movie, and I will probably do a vlog about that, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it's got a mystery in it. It's got a mystery in it, but I don't know how cozy it is. I think it's pretty gory. Okay, so that's it for my TBR for the summer. We've talked about all the cozies on my shelf. I will be reporting back of what I loved, what I didn't love. I'll probably do some reading vlogs, reading these. I'm hoping to get out of this is to find a series that I can just dive into and just like binge on and not think about what I'm reading, think about what I'm reading next, and just enjoy getting soaked into something during the summer. I'd love to hear what you're reading right now. If you have a favorite cozy series, please tell me. I know several of the people I'm friends with on Goodreads read a lot of cozies. Tell me what's your favorite, which ones you think I missed that I need to read, and I will keep you updated on what I like. I hope you're having a really good summer of reading, and be sure you check out the links I mentioned below. Bye. Just a couple.